I live an hour and a half away from San Diego. And I'm not at Comic-Con. Yo, what's up, comic book reading universe? It is I, your friendly neighborhood comic book reviewer, Steven Savelli. Once again, I'm representing #NerdSwag, and I'm here today to bring to you the staple stash for books for comics that were released on July 23rd, 2014. I have 7 comics to review for this week for you guys. That's 3 from DC, 1 from IDW, and 3 from Marvel Comics. I also have, 5 Marvel comics from last week, 2 DC comics from last week, and 1 IDW comic from last week. And I didn't do my comic book reviews. I was holding out on you guys. I'm so sorry. These are my favorite videos to do, and I haven't been doing them this full editing style. I've been doing live ones and stuff like that because I'm just running low on time lately with my fiance and I getting married next month on August 23rd. So I'm super excited about that. But, for any of you guys who are watching that have gone through a big wedding, it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort. But I'm doing the comic book review today. I'm going to make sure to do this going forward in the future, and I will not be skimping out on these, I can promise. But coming up in about a month from now, the week of my wedding, I won't be doing any videos, but I'll talk about that later. All right, so let's get into these comic book reviews, and let's start with Batman, because Batman Day was Wednesday. It's Batman year. It's the 75th anniversary of Batman. Let's start off with the Batman title. First book I'm going to review is Batman Eternal, number 16. This actual book was written by Ray Fawkes with art by Dustin Nguyen. Dustin Nguyen and Ray Fawkes have been on this Batman Eternal team from the beginning. The story is plotted by Scott Snyder and James Tynion IV. James Tynion IV jumps in here and there as a writer, and Scott Snyder, not really. He's kind of overseeing the project. The most positive thing I could say about this book is the cover is really awesome. Where this picks up is Batwing down in Arkham Asylum trying to find out with the Spectre what the heck's going on in Arkham Asylum. Joker's daughter makes an appearance. This whole Joker daughter thing is just absolutely dumb. I don't like Joker's daughter. I'm just not intrigued by this character at all. But Joker's daughter, captures Batwing. As it's going on, Batman is kind of watching Jason Bard, who's the new lieutenant in Gotham. He's supposed to be, kind of like Commissioner Gordon's replacement. And Jim Gordon handpicked Jason Bard to come to Gotham to be the lieutenant. But Jason Bard has a hidden agenda, man. He is saying he wants the good for the people. He wants Gotham to be good and to protect the city and to arrest all the villains and all that stuff. So in issue number 1, we find Batman. It's actually Bruce Wayne without a suit, tied to the bat signal. That's what happens in issue 1 of this book. We're on issue 16 out of like 50 or 60 issues of this run. The main villain has not made themselves, known. The main villain is still kind of a secret. It's not Carmine Falcone or Carmen Falcone. It's not the Joker's daughter. It's not Penguin. I have a super, I have a hunch now, which I think they might be foreshadowing, but I have a pretty big hunch the main villain of this book is going to be Jason Bard. We'll see what it actually ends up being, but if Jason Bard ends up being the main villain and I call on issue 16, then it's a little too predictable. Or they're just doing really good foreshadowing. Anyways, I don't have too much else to say about these books. These Batman Eternal stories are pretty short. Batman is in here for a whole 2 pages, and we have Red Robin in Japan. He's in here for a whole 3 pages. And what I don't like about this is they show a few pages of each story. It's just pretty convoluted. Anyway, Batman Eternal number 16, I'd give the writing on this book probably a 7.5 out of 10. And I would give the art on this a 7 out of 10 by Dustin Nguyen. It's not bad, not great. I'll touch on last week's issue here at the end of my comic book reviews, but it's okay. All right, the next comic I'm going to review is Wonder Woman, issue number 33. I don't read Wonder Woman. I got this for this 75th anniversary Batman cover. That's why I purchased this book, just for the cover. Wonder Woman is critically acclaimed and people love it. So I was like, you know what? I bought it for the cover, but let me read it and review this single issue for somebody that has no idea what's going on. So this is written by Brian Azzarello with art by Cliff Chang. And the colorist is Matthew Wilson. I was about halfway through this book and I was thinking to myself, I don't get it. I don't get why people are clamoring over Wonder Woman. I don't see it in these pages I'm reading. Now, of course, it's just one issue. I haven't read the run. I'm not emotionally invested in any of the characters that are, there's characters that die in this book. What we have Diana, Wonder Woman. I don't know where she is. I think she's in hell. She's taken captive by a guy named the Firstborn. He doesn't go by a name, and he wants her to basically be his mate. And for more or less, I don't know what's happening. He's basically like the devil. He's Satan himself. That's what it seems like in this one issue I'm reading. And he wants the god of war, which is now Wonder Woman, to be his mate and rule the world. Of course. So halfway through this book, I'm like, yeah, I don't get it. But when it finally ended, I actually really like this book. Wonder Woman has to watch the Amazon suffer because she's not gonna marry this evil dude, right? So he's like, okay, you're not gonna hook up with me? Guess what? You watch in this pool of blood. You watch me go and kill all the Amazons. And he shows up in the town and starts wrecking things. And she has to sit while she's bound up by, I don't know what's holding her. She's bound up. He stabbed her, so she's slowly bleeding out, and she has to watch as her city crumbles, and people that I think are big characters in this book, I don't know, are dying. So yeah, first half I'm like, what? Second half I'm like, what? I've been missing out on this. This is actually really good. Pretty good writing by Brian Azzarello. Azzarello? How do you say his name? Azzarello. That's who it is. Brian Azzarello. I'd give the writing on Wonder Woman issue number 33 probably an 8 out of 10. And I would give the art, though, a 6.5 out of 10. Not a big fan of this art. I'm a fan of the cover art. Not a huge fan of the inside pages. Not detailed enough for me. And you could do not detailed if that's the aesthetic you're going for and it's pop arty. This is kind of just a little scratchy and sketchy, which, some people like. I don't really care for. So that's Wonder Woman 33. And another number 33 is Superman, issue number 33. Now this is a sweet ass cover right here. This is written by Geoff Johns with art by John Romita Jr. This comic is super wordy, but that's what Geoff Johns does. There's always a lot of dialogue in his books, and there's more dialogue than pictures and action in Superman issue number 33. But you know what? I can't complain because it's pretty damn good. So what we had last issue was this character named Ulysses, and he is from Earth but has the superpowers of Superman. And we thought, the guy was from another dimension, and it's basically a reversal of Kal-El. So he knows himself as the last man of Earth, and Superman knows himself as the last son of Krypton, right? So we have the last son of Earth, the last son of Krypton. And now they're both on this Earth here. And Ulysses is like, I'm on Earth. I'm not the last son of Earth. Like, there's billions of people here. And he's just totally weirded out. And what Clark Kent does, well, I say Clark Kent because Clark Kent goes and does some detective work to try to find out where Ulysses came from. And by the end of this, he knows. And they find out already where he came from. That's some pretty quick. That's a pretty quick development for a Geoff Johns story. I'm excited they're skipping ahead and not leaving stuff to be too much of a mystery. But we'll see if it is actually we'll see if they actually do know, if Superman and Ulysses actually know where he came from. But I think it's interesting that they put a U on his chest, because it's kind of like Ultraman from Forever Evil and I think Earth 3, Ultraman, I think his name is. Anyway, I don't know. This book was pretty good. I'm gonna give the writing on Superman 33 an 8.5 out of 10, and I'm gonna give the art on this a 7.5 out of 10. John Romita Jr. is pretty good. I wish the coloring on this book was better. He doesn't do the coloring. The colorist was Laura Martin. I think the art, the drawing is good. The inking is good. The art's a little flat for me. All right, that's it for DC. Let's skip over to IDW, and this is Ragnarok, issue number 1. Now, this cover over here is the actual cover, normal cover, and this is the one I got in my hands, is the subscription cover. I got this at my comic book shop because someone subscribed to Ragnarok, and they decided they didn't want it. So I picked up the subscription cover. Well, actually, the comic book shop held it for me because they knew I wanted Ragnarok. But this is written by, the writer and artist is Walter Simonson, one of the greats in comic book history. The colorist on this is Laura Martin. I did not know that. Okay, I just reviewed Superman from DC, and I never even read who the colorist was until I wanted to make a complaint. Laura Martin was the colorist on that, and Laura Martin is the colorist in this, and that is one of my big complaints about this book. Oh my, who knew? I was gonna review this back to back. That's amazing. It's aliens, man. Oh man, that's just so great. Okay, so let me regroup. Ragnarok, writer and artist Walter Simonson, one of the greatest of all time. This is his version of Norse mythology. He did Thor, super famous for doing Thor in the 80s for Marvel Comics, and this is his another take on Norse mythology and Thor. So the premise of this book is all the gods died. Thor died, Odin died, there's no Allfather, all the gods are destroyed and dead, and darkness is ruling the world. And this book starts with us following some black elves who are trying to protect the darkness, because, you know, every villain thinks they're a hero, right? So these black elves are just a family, and they go out and they're trying to kill and protect the world from letting light in, because that's just how they're programmed, right? That's all they know. They just think that the light is bad and gods are bad. So it's a pretty interesting flip. So we're actually following, let's say, bad people, but they're not bad people. They're good people. They think they're doing good, but it's not what we normally perceive as good, as, you know, planet Earth society. So it's a nice flip on that by Walter Simonson. So what we find out is that Thor, who's on the cover of this book, he's like a skeleton Thor. Let's call him Skeleton Thor. I want to patent that or trademark that, Skeleton Thor. He's still alive, and the one of the black elves is on a mission to go and kill Thor, and that's what this comic book's about. And at the end, it leaves it off on a pretty good cliffhanger. This book was pretty good. My one complaint is the coloring. That's so great. Oh, poor Laura Martin. I hope she doesn't watch my comic book reviews. I don't like the coloring on this book. Walt Simonson, I think, did an awesome job writing it. It's very muddy. The coloring is very, very muddy. And I just don't, you know, when you see a lot of like browns and tans and beiges all together, and they're just like, it's almost like someone colored it with a marker. I just wasn't a huge fan of the coloring. The art was great by Walt Simonson. I really liked his take on elves and what the gods looked like in the beginning. But I'm going to give the writing and drawing art on this book an 8 out of 10. And I'm going to give the coloring art, oh man, a 6 out of 10. This is a pretty good book. It wasn't amazing, but it's the first issue, and you know, Walt Simonson is creating his own mythos And you can't do that in one issue. So was it amazing? No. Was it great? No. Was it good? Yeah, it was all right. But you know, if we read more of these and we come back and read issue 1, we might like it more because we might see and know what we were seeing when we first read this issue. So that's Ragnarok. All right, now let's skip over to Marvel Comics, and this is the creme de la creme of this week's comics. This is Daredevil, issue number 6. This is Original Sin tie-in, and this is the first Original Sin tie-in for Daredevil. So this is the start of a new story arc. This is written by Mark Waid, one of my faves. He kills it in comics. Love this guy. Well, at least right now. He didn't used to. But Mark Waid's killing it, at least with Daredevil. Now, we have a switch up of artist in this book. So the artist in this book is, the artist in this book is Alvaro Lopez. So we have Mark Waid, who's been writing Daredevil for years now, and we have a switch up in artists. We had Chris Samney, and Chris Samney did the cover on this book. Chris Samney's been doing Daredevil with Mark Waid for the entire run. This issue has Alvaro Lopez in it, but the colorist stayed the same, right? So a lot of times colorists don't get a lot of cred. I'm apparently focusing on colorists today in my comic book reviews, but people have always loved the art of Daredevil because of how it's just very pop arty and looks cool. Now, the credit of that, I believe, goes to Javier Rodriguez, not Chris Samney, who's been getting all the credit for the art. Because this book right here, with a different artist, a different inker in Alvaro Lopez, is amazing. So with Chris Samney out of the equation, with just Javier Rodriguez and Mark Waid and Alvaro Lopez, I love the art on this better than I have loved the art on all of the Daredevil comics recently. And if you've been watching my channel, you know that I'm a freaking Daredevil diehard right now. He is like the dude. He's one of the dudes in comics. It's like Thor and Daredevil. These Marvel runs are just fantastic. Anyway, so this issue starts off with, what this Original Sin is about. It's hard to review these ones because I don't want to give it away, because it's basically an entire spoiler of a book. But Daredevil finds out something about his father and mother that he didn't know was true about them. He has always thought his dad was a great man, and his dad raised him, and he had a great relationship with his father and totally respected him. Well, Daredevil comes to find out when he gets the visions from the orb who released all these original sins, secrets. He finds out his dad actually wasn't that great of a guy when he was a young kid, and that he's actually the reason why his mom left him and why his mom went and became a nun. And that's, why this cover is like that. So that's what this is about. This is fantastic, epic, amazing storytelling. If you haven't been reading Daredevil, issue number 6 is totally accessible. You could open this up and just start reading. This doesn't have any tie-ins to any previous runs that have been going on with Daredevil. All you need to know is Daredevil used to live in New York. He just recently, at issue number 1, moved to San Francisco. That's all you need to know to go into this book, and it is absolutely fantastic. I'm telling you guys, the art on this is stunning. It's absolutely stunning. I really, really am a huge fan of this book. Oh my gosh. And Mark Waid just does a fantastic job, like he's been doing with Daredevil, and using Daredevil's senses in new ways almost every time you read these comics. I'm going to give the writing on Daredevil number 6 a 9.5 out of 10. And I'm going to give the art a 9 out of 10. This was, oh man, so good. I'm going to be giving away a free digital copy of this book to whoever answers first. What city did Daredevil move to in issue number 1 of Daredevil that just recently came out a few months ago? So he moved from New York to where? First person to answer that, I'll shoot you a free digital code so you can read this book on your iPad, iPhone, any sort of thing like that. And if you don't win that, go buy this book. All right, the next issue from Marvel I'm going to review is Thor and Loki, the 10th Realm. This is issue number 2. This is the Original Sin tie-in 5.2. This is the plot is by Jason Aaron and Al Ewing, but the script is actually written by Al Ewing. We found out in last issue that there's a 10th realm, that Odin, a long time ago, sealed off the 10th realm from the rest of the realms, and it has been basically imprisoned. And we find out that that realm is heaven, and that is where the angels are from, and that's why we don't see angels anymore, is because Odin locked off and disconnected the 10th realm from the rest of the realms. Thor and Loki find out that they have a sister, and that their sister is alive and in the 10th realm. So they go and break the 10th realm open, and that's where this issue starts off. So Thor and Loki show up, and obviously they're villains, right? Because everyone on that planet is grown with tons of history of how the Asgardians destroyed them. They killed a bunch of their people. They locked them off from the rest of the realms. They basically imprisoned them on their own planet. So when Thor and Loki show up, and Thor's like, hey, I'm just looking for my sister, like a friggin' doofus. Loki's like, this isn't going to be good. He kind of disappears in the background like Loki does. And Thor's put in a pretty bad predicament when all these hell warriors, or heaven warriors, these angel warriors, come after him to kill him, basically, to protect their planet. Angela is from that planet, and it's safe to assume that Angela is their sister because she's the only one that doesn't have wings from this planet. She's an angel without wings, basically. She's the wingless one. Anyway, that's what this comic book's about. That's the premise of this original Sin tie-in. I'll give issue number 2, the writing, probably a 6 out of 10, and I would give the art on this book a 5 out of 10. I'm not really loving it. I wish Jason Aaron was the one writing this. I don't feel like Al Ewing has a good voice for Thor, and Jason Aaron's Thor is, I believe, the best character in comics today. So it's unfortunate that we're getting a really important Thor story where he finds out he has a sister. He finds out there's a 10th realm. This is big stuff for the Marvel Universe, and it's written by Al Ewing, who's writing Doctor Who for Titan Comics, if you care. That Doctor Who #1 came out this week as well, so maybe he's spending too much time worrying about Doctor Who and not this huge giant story for Marvel Comics. Anyway, that's Thor and Loki, the 10th realm, issue number 2. All right, and the last book from Marvel I'm going to review that came out this week is Storm, issue number 1. This is written by Greg Pak, and the art on this, let me jump to I'm pretty sure the title page is at the end. The art on this is Victor Ibanez. The colorist is Ruth Redmond. And Victor Ibanez also did the cover. I think the cover on this book is really sweet. So we've never gotten a Storm comic book in the history of Marvel Comics. There's never been a solo Storm standalone book. And I'm kind of happy we're doing it. She's kind of leading the X-Men right now. And the real X-Men team she's leading right now. And Greg Pak has a great history of fleshing out characters. So I'm excited to get some character study on Storm, who we all know, but her real story has not been told. It's been told in other forms and obviously in the X-Men books and stuff like that. But I'm very interested in getting to the head of Storm. I think she could be a very interesting character. She's not very popular because, well, there's nothing to really latch on to because she hasn't had her own book, right? That's part of the reason why she might not be a popular character of the X-Men. And I feel like there's something there. I feel like, this woman who has all these crazy powers. This book starts with her stopping a tsunami with wind. It's just, her powers are incredible, and she should be so much more useful in the Marvel comic universe. I feel like they got the best writer they could get in Greg Pak to write this. I'm very excited about Greg Pak's writing in this. This is kind of a one-shot. It's kind of like hey, here's the status quo of Storm right now. Here's what's going on with her in the X-Men. Here's what's going on in her head. Here's where her frustrations are. That's what this issue is. It's basically a one-shot. Hey, if you don't know Storm, here's what's up with her. That's this in a nutshell. We didn't get a villain introduced. We kind of get a next step on what might happen next, but not really. This is more, of a status quo of Storm, find out what's going on in her head, and I learned more about Storm in this book than the last 30 X-Men books. So I'm excited to read issue number 2, where I'm assuming we're going to start a real story arc. And I thought the writing on this was great. I'd give the writing on Storm number 1 an 8.5 out of 10. I would give the art on this, however, probably a 7 out of 10. There's some spots where Storm's face looks pretty funny. And once again, the very dark tones of the coloring, not a huge fan of. I definitely would recommend this book. I'm pretty excited about where this could go. And it's worth picking up. If you are into the fleshing out of characters, the human experience, and really understanding people and human emotion. I know some people don't really dig that. I'm really into that kind of stuff, so I like Storm issue number 1. All right, that's it for my comic book reviews for books that came out on August 23rd, 2014, or August, July 23rd, 2014. But I want to touch on the comics that came out last week that I didn't review because there's some big stuff that happened, and I'm going to go through these unbelievably fast, but I do want to touch on them for you guys that still, don't buy every week like I do. I buy every single Wednesday. So if you're somebody that buys every few weeks or buys once a month or just here and there when you hear something cool, I want to make sure I touch on those, because the reason I do these comic book reviews is, I like doing it for people that are huge into comics like I am, where I read them weekly. But, one of the purposes of why I started this is I want to be able to help new readers. That's what I want to do. I want to help new readers find out, what should I read? What's cool out there? What's not Marvel or DC that I should be reading? What's, I walk in the store, there's 50 Marvel comics. Which one's cool, right? That's what I'm trying to help out in. And of course, I love talking to all you guys that read every week like I do. But my number one priority, new readers. Because I was a new reader once upon a time. I got back into comics 2 years ago. And I went online, and YouTube was a place that I went to find out where do I start. So let me touch on some of these books from last week. All right, let's touch on 2 from DC. Batman Eternal number 15 was absolute garbage. I don't even want to talk about this book. I'd give the writing on this like a 4, and I'd give the art on a 5. Okay, so Robin's Rises of Omega number 1. This was actually a very, very cool book. This was a one-shot that caught you up to what was happening in the Batman and Robin saga that's been going on for the last few years. Catches you up on all that, gives you a good background in the beginning, and the art on this is just really cool as well. I really like the art on Robin Rises Omega. It's a cool story. It's a cool one-shot. It was $4.99. Justice League makes an appearance, and it's a double or triple size issue. I would recommend this for big fans of Batman and Damian and Robin. Other than that, I actually probably wouldn't recommend Robin Rises. And I personally like this, but not enough to continue this Robin Rises story. So I didn't pick up Batman and Robin this week, which continued the ending of this book. It just didn't draw me in like I thought it was going to, but it was relatively okay. The next book I have here is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, issue number 36. It's by IDW Publishing, and this book is just incredible. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, this current comic book, is the best turtle story I've ever read or watched or anything. I really love Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles number 36, and this whole run from IDW. It's just great. So what we have in this is we have Leonardo and Splinter. They're trying to figure out plans for what they're going to do about Shredder and all the stuff that's happening right now in the world. And out of nowhere, the freaking Rat King shows up and threatens them and makes them fight each other, controls their mind. Just really cool stuff I was not anticipating one bit at all. And this book ends with Shredder and General Krang. The guy with the brain in the middle, that's Krang. So we have Krang and Shredder teaming up at the end of this book. They shake hands and they're going to team up to take on the Turtles. The Turtles are in trouble right now. So Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles number 36. I'd give the writing on this a 9 out of 10. I'd give the art on this an 8 out of 10. Very good book. All right, next up was Original Sin number 6 out of 8 from Marvel. This was another pretty slow book. I am getting a little disappointed in Original Sin. Not disappointed like it's bad. I'm still going to give this book an 8 out of 10. But I need some more developments to happen. There's 2 more issues, so Jason Aaron's going to bring it home and close it off really good. But we find out at the end of this that old Nick Fury is not a joke, man. He's the real deal. So, yeah, that's Original Sin, 6 out of 10. The next book is one of the main reasons I want to touch on last week is Uncanny X-Men number 23. It's the first Original Sin tie-in. This is the last will and testament of Charles Xavier. We find out that Charles Xavier left a will, and it gets sent to She-Hulk because she's a lawyer, obviously. So she goes to the X-Men's facility. She grabs Storm, she grabs Beast, and she goes, "Hey guys, we need to get Cyclops because he must be present for me to read the will." And if you've been keeping up with X-Men at all, Beast, Storm, and are not on speaking terms with Cyclops. Cyclops has his own facility. He has the Xavier School for Higher Learning. He's with Magneto. He's not bad. Magneto's a good guy. Well, he's a good guy in quotes right now. What I really like about this book is it's Cyclops still dealing with him killing Professor Xavier, and there is a new mutant introduced to the beginning of this book, and he comes in at the end. And Dazzler goes through a nice story arc where she's beaten down, man. She's not doing so hot ever since Mystique kind of used her powers to make mutant growth hormones. So you could start on issue number 23 and kind of keep up with what's going on. You could jump on here and read this tie-in. I would highly recommend it. I'm giving the writing on Uncanny X-Men number 23 an 8.5 out of 10. I'm gonna give the art on this a 9 out of 10. I really, really, really enjoyed this book. If you're an X fan, I would get the Last Will and Testament Charles Xavier. It's gonna be a huge deal when they read what Charles Xavier's will is. This is not something to miss. Next up is Nova number 19. Don't have too much to talk about this. Nova finds out that his dad was actually a freaking jerk. He goes out in space to find out where his dad is because his dad's still living. He teams up Rocket. Raccoon comes with him because Rocket's on a bounty hunt and is going to help Nova out. And that's what this book's about. Rocket and Nova on a journey to find out where Nova's dad is. Relatively okay. I'd give the writing on this a 6 out of 10 and the art probably a 7 out of 10. It's an okay book. Hulk vs. Iron Man number 2. I don't like this book. I'm going to keep reading it. I can't drop it, but I'm not really a huge fan of this. Basically, Tony Stark is one of the reasons why Bruce Banner turned into the Hulk. He had a big part to play in the Gamma Ray Blast, and but I just don't like the storytelling in this. I'd give probably the writing on this a 6.5, and I'd give the art. Let me scan over this real quick. Yeah, I'd give the art probably a 7.5. The art's not too bad, but the writing's kind of junky. But I really like this cover. All right, and the last issue is X-Men 100th anniversary. This is entirely skippable, but it was fun. What these are, like I've said before, is these 100th anniversaries are basically what stories could be happening when Marvel actually becomes 100 years old. And you just read a 1-issue comic book, and that's it. So this issue was fun. At the end, of course, it's about Cyclops and Jean Grey, of course. But I'd give the writing on this a 7 out of 10. I'd give the art on this a 7 out of 10. It was just, it was mediocre. But anyway, that's it for last week's comics. Holy craptola. That was a lot of books. I would just like to say happy reading to you guys. This is some pretty fun stuff. There's a lot of cool books coming out. There's a lot of really good books coming out next week. Image Comics. I'm going to have a plethora of Image Comics next week in my hands. And I will see you guys next week for my comic book haul, my comic book reviews. And I will be also reviewing the Guardians of the Galaxy movie with my fiance. And I'll have this up on the channel I'll have the review of that movie up on the channel by, I think, Saturday of next week. We're seeing it Thursday at 7 p.m. So I'm excited about Guardians. Hopefully you guys are too. San Diego Comic Con's going on right now. I live an hour and a half away from there, and I'm not there, which is sad times. But happy 75th anniversary of Batman Week. Go buy some Batman comics, wear your Batman gear, and I will see you guys next week. Don't forget to upvote, like, and subscribe to our channel, and happy reading, bubs.